The day had started like any other major tech conference. Bright lights, buzzing anticipation, and a crowd of over 3,000 attendees, packed into the grand auditorium of the Austin Convention Center. Journalists, investors, developers, and fans had flown in from around the world to attend what was being marketed as a groundbreaking event. The excitement in the air was palpable. Elon Musk was scheduled to speak about innovations that could revolutionize clean energy and artificial intelligence. Everyone expected surprises. No one expected the chaos that would unfold. Backstage, Elon adjusted the collar of his designer suit. He wasn't fond of public speaking, but he understood the necessity. His assistant gave him a brief nod and handed over a small, digital pointer for the on-stage presentation. The lights dimmed. A voice over the loudspeaker announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Elon Musk." Applause thundered through the hall. Elon stepped into the spotlight, greeted by a sea of camera flashes and the low hum of whispers. Just as he reached center stage, something unexpected happened. A large man in a black security uniform stepped onto the platform behind him. The man's name tag read Frank Morrison, a member of the conference's private security detail. But something in his eyes looked off, too intense, too focused. In one swift, brutal motion, Morrison's hand slammed into Elon's back with tremendous force. Elon was caught completely off guard. His body lurched forward violently. His arms flailed instinctively as he tried to regain balance. But momentum and gravity took over. The edge of the stage came too quickly. Elon's body plummeted 4 feet onto the hard concrete floor below. A sickening crack echoed through the speakers. His wireless microphone had amplified the impact of his head hitting the ground. For a moment, there was silence. Then screams. Someone in the crowd shouted, "Oh my God!" Another yelled, "Call an ambulance!" Elon lay motionless. His left leg was twisted in an unnatural position, bent where no joint existed. Blood seeped from a deep gash on his forehead, trailing into a growing pool beneath him. His designer suit was torn, smeared with crimson and dirt. People in the audience gasped and clutched one another. Phones went up not just to call for help, but to capture the horror. The digital age didn't wait. Sarah Chen, the event moderator, dropped her clipboard and sprinted to the edge of the stage. "Someone call 911 right now," she screamed. But even she couldn't tear her eyes away from Elon's broken form. Dr. Amanda Rodriguez, a trauma physician attending the conference as a guest, had been seated in the front row. She rushed forward, kneeling beside Elon, assessing the damage with clinical urgency. "He's bleeding badly. Massive head trauma. We need to keep him still." Elon's eyelids fluttered. A faint groan escaped his lips. It was the first sign of life. "Don't move," Dr. Rodriguez said, her voice firm but calm. "You've taken a serious fall. Help is coming." Meanwhile, Frank Morrison stood frozen at the edge of the stage, staring down at Elon with a pale, ghost-like expression. He didn't move. He didn't help. He just stood there. "It was an accident," he muttered to another guard who had rushed over. "I didn't mean for that to happen. I was just trying to escort him off stage." The other guard glared at him, suspicion written all over his face. "That wasn't an escort, Frank. You shoved him. You shoved him hard." In the crowd, Marcus Wheeler, the investigative journalist who had recently broken a story about controversial leaked documents, was already recording. His hands shook as he captured the unfolding tragedy on his phone. "This is insane," he whispered, his voice picked up by his phone's microphone. This wasn't supposed to happen. On the far end of the conference center, chaos reigned. People pushed toward the exits in a panic. Others were yelling for medics. Some were even trying to climb onto the stage, desperate to help. But nothing could undo the damage. Jennifer Walsh, one of the event organizers, the same woman who had shown Elon a supposed legal summons, just moments earlier, was screaming into her phone, "Yes, we have a medical emergency." No, it wasn't an accident. Security pushed him. Sirens echoed in the distance. The Austin Convention Center's on-site medical team arrived, working quickly alongside Dr. Rodriguez. Elon's pupils were reactive, barely. "He has a concussion," Dr. Rodriguez announced. "And that leg needs emergency attention." "It's shattered." Elon groaned again, trying to sit up. His body convulsed with pain. "I can't." "My leg," he whimpered. The microphone still clipped to his jacket amplified the sound, echoing around the shocked auditorium. "You were pushed off the stage," Dr. Rodriguez told him gently. "You've been hurt. Don't try to move." The paramedics burst through the doors, wheeling a stretcher and a crash kit. They worked with precision, immobilizing Elon's neck and leg, starting fluids, and preparing him for transport. Frank Morrison had vanished. "Where's the guard who pushed him?" one paramedic asked. "He was right here a minute ago," Sarah Chen exclaimed, scanning the area. Frank Morrison. He just left. As they wheeled Elon toward the exit, his head lolled sideways. Through the haze of pain, he caught sight of Marcus Wheeler still recording. Marcus, Elon rasped. A paramedic leaned closer. What did you say, sir? Not random, Elon muttered. Someone planned this. The paramedic's eyes widened. He exchanged a look with his partner. He knew the difference between an accident and an assault. This wasn't an accident. Outside, the ambulance's doors slammed shut. Sirens wailed as it sped toward Austin General Hospital. Inside the convention center, panic still surged. But outside, online, a new storm had begun. Dozens of videos from different angles were already flooding social media. Hashtags like Dar Elon pushed and Dar stage assault surged into global trending status. What was meant to be a humiliating public moment had become something far more powerful, the beginning of an international firestorm. And it was only just starting. By the time Elon's ambulance had reached the ER bay of Austin General Hospital, the world already knew something terrible had happened. Clips from at least 20 different angles flooded Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube, some edited with slow motion or zoom-ins on the moment of impact. The image of one of the most recognizable tech billionaires being shoved off a stage had become a living meme, except no one was laughing. Within 15 minutes, Elon push trended in 37 countries. News networks were scrambling for coverage. CNN ran the headline, "Breaking Elon Musk Hospitalized After Onstage Incident," while Fox News called it a possible assassination attempt. MSNBC brought on a panel of legal analysts to discuss liability, and BBC had already subtitled the clips with translations for European audiences. The public outcry was volcanic. Millions of people commented online. Some were outraged by the violence. Others demanded accountability. Conspiracy theorists came crawling out of the shadows, proposing everything from corporate espionage to deep state involvement. Inside the emergency wing of Austin General, Elon was barely conscious. Surgeons, trauma specialists, and nurses swarmed around him. Dr. Rodriguez, who had ridden with him in the ambulance, handed over her field notes. He regained consciousness momentarily, mentioned something not being random. She told the intake surgeon. Possible intracranial pressure. Suspect broken tibia, femur misalignment, and blunt head trauma. Elon drifted in and out of awareness as the medical team worked. In those fractured moments, his mind played back not just the fall, but the eerie expression on Frank Morrison's face just before the shove. It wasn't confusion. It wasn't clumsiness. It was intent. Back online, the discourse reached a fever pitch. Internet sleuths started digging. Redditors pulled up Frank Morrison's LinkedIn, which curiously had been wiped clean only hours after the event. But old cache snapshots showed that Frank had once worked for a lesser-known private security firm, Titan Shield International, a company tied to several ethically questionable containment operations in unstable political regions. Marcus Wheeler, the investigative journalist who had captured the initial footage, took to X, formerly Twitter. I was in the room. This wasn't a mistake. Elon looked terrified before he was shoved. I believe this was planned. Elon pushed. He followed that with a video breakdown, freeze-framing the moment where another figure appeared to nod discreetly to Morrison seconds before the shove. That man internet users quickly discovered was Robert Hayes, a known associate of corporate intelligence consultancy Strategic Communications Solutions, SCS, a firm notorious for reputation demolition, political sabotage, and corporate manipulation. Suddenly, the narrative changed. This wasn't just about one man being pushed. It was about who ordered it and why. At the hospital, Elon's condition was upgraded to stable but critical. He had suffered 2 broken ribs, a fractured left leg, and a moderate to severe concussion. He was placed in a medically induced coma to manage intracranial swelling. His legal team, led by powerhouse attorney Miranda Singh, was already on the offensive. In a live-streamed press briefing outside the hospital, she addressed reporters. We have reason to believe this was a premeditated act of violence. We are pursuing criminal charges and civil litigation. Furthermore, we are demanding full cooperation from event organizers, security contractors, and any third-party vendors associated with Mr. Morrison's employment. The footage Marcus posted had now been verified by multiple independent media outlets. His credibility skyrocketed overnight. Invitations from major news networks poured in. Meanwhile, the board of directors at Nexaflow, Elon's company, met for an emergency Zoom session. Some were panicking about share prices. Others were talking in hushed voices about the likelihood that someone inside the company had known about the threat. Investor confidence plummeted as news broke that Elon had been working on exposing a massive fraud, ring involving shell companies and illegal cryptocurrency manipulation, something he had not yet made public. Speculation swirled that this was the motive behind the attack. Dr. Kimberly Santos, a forensic trauma expert brought in for a second opinion, reviewed the footage and physical evidence. Her conclusion: this was not accidental. The trajectory of the body, the timing, and the posture of the attacker indicate trained use of force. Someone wanted Mr. Musk silenced or severely discredited. The statement added gasoline to the public blaze. TikTok creators made breakdowns with annotations. Former intelligence officers gave interviews on the techniques used in clean hits disguised as accidents. The whole world became an active investigation hub, and through it all, Elon slept. He dreamed of static, of wires, of a woman's voice whispering, "They know." He dreamed of Patricia Chen, a former partner in cybersecurity analyst who had gone missing 2 years ago after investigating an international banking scandal. When he jolted awake suddenly, screaming, a nurse ran to his side. His pulse was high. His eyes were wide. "Elon," she said, trying to calm him. "You're safe. You're in the hospital. You're alive." His breath steadied, but only slightly. "I saw her," he whispered. "She's not dead. Patricia's alive. And this, all of this, is connected." Security was tightened around the hospital, but just as the tension peaked, a man dressed as a physician attempted to access Elon's room. He was stopped at the last second by FBI agents, who had been discreetly monitoring the floor. Upon searching him, they found a loaded syringe filled with a paralytic agent. The FBI now publicly declared the investigation an active assassination attempt with potential corporate espionage implications. Online support poured in for Elon. Millions of tweets. Dozens of fundraisers for legal action. Celebrities like Oprah, Kanye, and even political figures sent their well wishes and voiced outrage. But the key players behind the scenes, the real masterminds, were just beginning to feel the heat. Robert Hayes had gone underground. Strategic Communications Solutions issued a vague statement denying any involvement. And Richard Blackwood, the elusive billionaire, tied to a network of shadow companies, was reportedly flying to an undisclosed international location. Rumors suggested Elon had gotten too close to something massive, something world-shaking. And now that Elon had survived, they had a bigger problem. He could talk, to be continued. 3 days had passed since Elon Musk was shoved off the stage in front of a global audience, while he lay in a high-security medical suite recovering from a concussion, broken ribs, and a shattered leg. The world around him buzzed with furious speculation. The images of his fall were no longer just viral content. They had become a symbol of something darker, something coordinated. It was no longer just a fall. It was an attack. The FBI, local law enforcement, and even cybersecurity units from the Department of Homeland Security launched parallel investigations into the incident. They had one goal: to figure out who ordered the hit and why. What began as a search for a rogue security guard quickly morphed into a hunt for an international web of influence. Frank Morrison, the man who had pushed Elon, had disappeared. His last known location was traced to a cheap motel outside of Austin, but by the time agents arrived, the room was empty. The bed was made, the bathroom untouched, and surveillance footage showed him leaving the premises dressed as a janitor, his security badge missing, his face obscured by a cap and mask. However, it wasn't Morrison who caught investigators' interest the most. It was the man caught nodding to him moments before the assault, Robert Hayes. Robert Hayes wasn't a household name, but in the world of elite intelligence contracting, he was infamous. Former CIA, expelled for conducting unauthorized psyops, reappeared years later as a strategic consultant for firms with reputations for media blackouts, smear campaigns, and data weaponization. His last listed employer? Strategic Communications Solutions, SCS. SCS had a shadowy reputation. Their contracts were sealed, their teams compartmentalized, and their successes whispered about in boardrooms of billion-dollar firms. They claimed to shape perception, but critics had long argued that they trafficked in destabilization. Investigative journalist Marcus Wheeler, still riding the wave of fame from his viral footage, dove headfirst into uncovering the story behind CS. In his next expose titled The Invisible Network, he released a damning 10,000-word report revealing the connections between CS, Titan Shield International, Frank Morrison's old employer, and a network of shell corporations, channeling illicit funds through crypto wallets. These were the mechanisms of elite sabotage, and they had one benefactor, Richard Blackwood. A ghost in the financial world, Blackwood rarely appeared in public. No social media, no interviews. His empire stretched from London to Lagos, from Mumbai to Manhattan. Through offshore accounts and complex corporate veils, he owned data firms, biotech startups, military logistics companies, and perhaps most troubling, media influencers and cybersecurity firms that specialized in containment. According to Wheeler's sources, Elon had been preparing to expose SpectreChain, a secret platform used to route vast sums of untraceable digital currency across jurisdictions. SpectreChain didn't just hide wealth, it hid intent, bribes, blackmail payments, illegal funding for Black Ops projects. In a hidden folder retrieved from Elon's private server, simply titled SC Blackwood, his closest aides found meticulous research tracing SpectreChain to front companies in Estonia, Panama, and the British Virgin Islands. Every lead pointed to one man, Richard Blackwood. At the hospital, Elon, still recovering, drifted in and out of lucidity. In one rare, sharp moment of clarity, he whispered to the nurse, "Get Marcus. Get him everything." When Wheeler arrived, Elon handed him a USB drive. "They won't stop," he said, "but now the world knows. And that's how we beat them. Not with silence. With light." Across the globe, public protests erupted. Hacktivist groups like Shadow Loop and Echo Phantom began leaking internal documents tied to SES and Blackwood's holdings. One leak revealed a corporate proposal, titled Reputational Collapse Strategy, Elon Musk. Phase Y. Phase 1, Stage Incident. Phase 2, Smear Campaign. Phase 3, Legal Compromise. But Elon had survived Phase 1. Congressional hearings were announced. Senator Maria Daley, chair of the Cyber Ethics Committee, declared, "What happened to Mr. Musk was not an accident. It was an orchestrated effort to suppress truth and maintain a dangerous status quo. This ends now." Meanwhile, Richard Blackwood sat alone in a Dubai penthouse, staring at a wall-sized screen streaming news. Coverage of Elon's recovery and the growing storm. His face remained unreadable. His assistant entered. "Sir, Hayes has gone dark." "The files. They're everywhere." Blackwood stood, adjusting the cuffs of his tailored shirt. "Then it's time we escalate. Move to contingency phase 2. If Elon Musk survives, our empire doesn't." As the sun set over the Persian Gulf, a new plan was already in motion. 3 days had passed since Elon Musk was shoved off the stage in front of a global audience. While he lay in a high-security medical suite recovering from a concussion, broken ribs and a shattered leg, the world around him buzzed with furious speculation. The images of his fall were no longer just viral content. They had become a symbol of something darker, something coordinated. It was no longer just a fall. It was an attack. The FBI, local law enforcement, and even cybersecurity units from the Department of Homeland Security launched parallel investigations into the incident. They had one goal: to figure out who ordered the hit and why. What began as a search for a rogue security guard quickly morphed into a hunt for an international web of influence. Frank Morrison, the man who had pushed Elon, had disappeared. His last known location was traced to a cheap motel outside of Austin, but by the time agents arrived, the room was empty. The bed was made, the bathroom untouched, and surveillance footage showed him leaving the premises dressed as a janitor, his security badge missing, his face obscured by a cap and mask. However, it wasn't Morrison who caught investigators' interest the most. It was the man caught nodding to him moments before the assault, Robert Hayes. Robert Hayes wasn't a household name, but in the world of elite intelligence contracting, he was infamous. Former CIA, expelled for conducting unauthorized psyops, reappeared years later as a strategic consultant for firms with reputations for media blackouts, smear campaigns, and data weaponization. His last listed employer? Strategic Communication Solutions, SCS. SCS had a shadowy reputation. Their contracts were sealed, their teams compartmentalized, and their successes whispered about in boardrooms of billion-dollar firms. They claimed to shape perception, but critics had long argued that they trafficked in destabilization. Investigative journalist Marcus Wheeler, still riding the wave of fame from his viral footage, dove headfirst into uncovering the story behind CS. In his next expose titled The Invisible Network, he released a damning 10,000-word report revealing the connections between CS, Titan Shield International, Frank Morrison's old employer, and a network of shell corporations, channeling illicit funds through crypto wallets. These were the mechanisms of elite sabotage, and they had one benefactor, Richard Blackwood. A ghost in the financial world, Blackwood rarely appeared in public. No social media, no interviews. His empire stretched from London to Lagos, from Mumbai to Manhattan. Through offshore accounts and complex corporate veils, he owned data firms, biotech startups, military logistics companies, and perhaps most troubling, media influencers and cybersecurity firms that specialized in containment. 2 days after the attempted infiltration of Elon Musk's hospital room, the FBI had officially confirmed that it was no longer investigating the incident as a simple assault. It was now a federal conspiracy case with links to international entities. The syringe found on the impersonating doctor contained a fast-acting, paralytic agent used by covert operatives, and its presence changed the entire game. Elon was moved overnight to a classified location under full federal protection. His location was now known only to a handful of senior FBI personnel, 3 trusted members of his inner circle, and the White House Chief of Staff. In the quiet of a secure government compound deep beneath Colorado soil, Elon sat in a wheelchair, leg in a cast, eyes clear for the first time in a week. Across from him sat FBI agent Carla Walsh and Marcus Wheeler. Between them, a whiteboard filled with names, photos, red string, and hastily scrawled notes. At the center, Richard Blackwood. "They failed to kill me," Elon said flatly, "but they won't stop." "They won't," Agent Walsh replied. "That's why we need to move first." Marcus opened his laptop. "Blackwood's already executing. Phase 2. We're seeing coordinated press releases, questioning your mental health, edited videos implying erratic behavior, and doctor documents being leaked online." Elon scrolled through the screen. One headline read, "Musk unstable? Insider sources raise alarm." Another, "Financial irregularities at Nexaflow. Is Elon hiding something?" They were trying to destroy him piece by piece. "They can't kill me," he muttered, "so they'll kill who I am instead." But Elon wasn't the only target. A known SES affiliate named Valerie, Knox had approached 2 of Elon's former business partners, offering them bribes to testify against him in a soon-to-be-launched SEC probe. A smear campaign was being launched across political spheres. 2, suggesting Musk's influence posed a national security risk. But then they made a mistake. One of Blackwood's operatives, posing as an FBI field agent, tried to intercept Dr. Rodriguez, Elon's original on-site rescuer, at a medical conference in San Diego. But Rodriguez had been briefed. She recorded the interaction, uploaded it to a secure FBI server, and exposed the impersonation. The footage went viral. It backfired spectacularly. The tide began to turn. More whistleblowers emerged. An anonymous data analyst from within SCS dropped 100 DB of encrypted communications between Blackwood's teams. The documents revealed that Spectre Chain was not only real, it was actively being used to destabilize democratic elections across Europe. Public outrage returned with renewed fury. Elon's team, with Marcus Wheeler at the helm, released a counter-narrative video titled "The Real Threat." In it, Elon, still visibly recovering, spoke directly to the camera. The compound in Colorado buzzed with a quiet intensity. Outside, it looked like a bland research facility, the kind that might study soil chemistry or atmospheric pressure. But underground, it was alive with urgency. For the first time since the attack, Elon Musk was not only awake, he was thinking clearly. His leg was still braced. His ribs ached with every breath. But his mind was sharper than it had been in weeks. Despite painkillers and bruised bones, his will had only grown stronger. In the command room, a team of federal agents, digital forensics experts, and Elon's inner circle stared at a map, a sprawling digital blueprint of Richard Blackwood's network. Hundreds of lines stretched between nodes representing shell companies, cryptocurrency ledgers, media outlets, and tech contractors. It was a web of influence, manipulation, and control that spanned continents. Elon wheeled himself in slowly. "We're not going to dismantle this from the outside," he said. "We have to collapse it from within." Agent Carla Walsh stepped forward. "We've identified a weak point, Project Ithaca. It's a secure blockchain protocol used by Spectre Chain to move data and money. We believe if we can breach it, we'll uncover Blackwood's master ledger." Elon nodded. "Then that's where we strike." "But I want to be the one to do it." Walsh hesitated. "You're not ready." "I wasn't ready when they tried to kill me either," Elon said. "Didn't stop me then." With a secured laptop and remote access to Nexaflow's most powerful quantum processors, Elon began running decryption protocols on known Spectre Chain hashes. For hours, he worked with Marcus Wheeler and a rotating team of cryptographers. Then it happened. A breach. A hidden archive labeled Echo Root appeared inside. Spectre Chain system, a file structure dating back 7 years, containing logs, payment trails correspondence, and most damning of all, directives signed with Blackwood's biometric stamp. Among them were internal memos titled Operation Obsidian Suppression of Whistleblowers, Musk Protocol Tier 3 Neutralization Plan, Media Manipulation Assets Active Nodes. It wasn't just corporate warfare. It was psychological, political, and criminal warfare being executed with clinical precision. Elon looked up from the terminal. We have it, everything. Agent Walsh's face was pale. This is enough to bring down empires. That night, using a distributed Deadman switch server, Elon's team leaked parts of EchoRoute to 5 global media outlets under embargo but with guaranteed publication within 72 hours. Simultaneously, an open letter from Elon himself went live. I survived not by luck, but because truth refused to die. The time has come to shine light into the darkest corners of power. This isn't revenge. This is responsibility. The letter ended with a single phrase, "We are awake now." The impact was instant. World governments issued statements. Intelligence committees were summoned. Protests surged again, this time outside Blackwood's known holdings in London, Berlin, and Singapore. Meanwhile, in Dubai, Richard Blackwood stood before a private jet, duffel bag in hand. His face bore none of the usual smug confidence. He spoke to a burner phone. "You said Phase 3 would work," he hissed. "Now everything's crumbling. You told me he wouldn't wake up." The voice on the other end replied coldly. "Then you underestimated the wrong man." But it was too late. Interpol, acting on data from the EchoRoute leaks, issued a red notice for Blackwood's arrest. His accounts froze. Allies vanished. Safe houses were compromised. Back in Colorado, Elon watched it all unfold from a secure live stream. "We're not done," he whispered. "But we're winning." Behind him, Marcus asked, "What happens when he's gone?" Elon closed his laptop, pain and resolve in equal parts on his face. "Then we rebuild, cleaner, freer, smarter." The screen faded to black as the last lines of EchoRoute loaded onto a public blockchain mirror, indelible and irreversible. For the first time in weeks, Elon Musk smiled.